So, it is week 2 of Historic Horizons. Let's talk about my week 1 impression of the metagame so far. I'm not sure if you'll find this valuable. I hope someone finds this valuable, but anyways. First, I'll go over some heavily played decks in best out of 3 from my experience. If you want to play best out of 3, be prepared to face these two decks about, let's see, 90% of the times. So first is Jeskai Control. Unsurprisingly, one of the best decks right now and before Historic Horizons, and still being the top dog after the new card injections. The only new card they got is Archmage Charm, but even then I saw some lists not even running it. Might be like some wildcard issues they have, but they're still performing very well without it. The Memory Lapse and Helix is just such a powerful spell that it gives them big enough cushion to reach late game so easily. And with them having just multiple board wipes, such as Anger of the Gods, Wrath of God, things like that, and then you just slam Teferi or Shark Typhoon down, then all of your aggression is just over. They have turn 2 Time Walk, aka Memory Lapse, and the Helix just heals them way too much for any aggro decks to really put on any aggression. So yeah, unsurprisingly, they are still one of the top dogs here. And second is Indomitable Creativity. Indomitable Creativity just keeps coming back, isn't it? Like, first we had the Jeskai Velomachus deck with a bunch of time warps, just constantly just taking infinite turns, right? And then they transitioned into, after it got banned, they transitioned into Coma, I believe. And it was still performing really well. And now, with the addition of Sarah's Emissary, the deck can just instantly win against a creature deck by creativitying for 2 emissaries, calling for, let's say, creature, and other card type would be whatever the card type your opponent may be running to remove the emissaries, right? So for example, against a white deck, they would name creature, and the other one would be sorcery spell, so because they could run something like Declaration in Stone. So like things like that. The deck is currently, I don't want to say the word warping the format, but I mean it is technically warping the format because it is making basically every deck is running multiple cards to beat Sarah's Emissary, right? So for example, green decks are running bad cards such as, like, I don't know, like some people run Plummet because it's an instant speed. You can target a creature. Some people are running like Run Afoul or something like that. 1 mana, sacrifice a creature, flying creature. So yeah, it is taking sideboard slots that could be more relevant against other decks like Jeskai Control, but it is what it is. And speaking of warping the format, in Best Out of 1, there is a huge influx of people running the new Tibalt's Trickery deck. I don't know why Tibalt's Trickery is just such a popular card, right? Like, even when it wasn't so consistent, people were running it so much, even in Standard, for example. But thanks to the new card, Throes of Chaos, it made the deck even more consistent. Well, let's not say even more. It was never consistent, but now it is consistent. I mean, Wizards surely made the conscious decision here to add this card knowing that Tibalt's Trickery was already a thing, right? Surely Wizards have already knew that Tibalt's Trickery deck already exists in Modern using a Cascade card called Violent Outburst, which is a 3 mana Cascade card, right? Like, I suggest if you're playing Best Out of 1, if you're playing white, make sure you add Dreneth Magistrate in your deck, or Thalia, or even something like Elite Spellbinder, so that you can win before Throes of Chaos comes down. It is a 4-mana card. Technically, if you're playing a creature that you're looking to win on turn 4, so like if you aren't doing that, you better have some way of taxing your opponents so that you can go into late game that way. If you're playing blue, you could get away with not playing Test of Talents, although Test of Talents is a card that can get rid of all copies of Throes of Chaos. But from my experience, after playtesting the Tibalt's Trickery deck, you could just get away with just playing counters, just normal counter spells, because if you just play something like Memory Lapse, they play Throes of Chaos, and then Throes of Chaos cast Tibalt's Trickery. If you Memory Lapse the Tibalt's Trickery, then the Tibalt's Trickery goes on top of their deck, and they draw it next turn. So that's one less Tibalt's Trickery that you have to worry about from being casted from Throes of Chaos. Eventually, when you try to cast a spell, they'll have multiple Tibalt's Trickery in their hand, and they'll Tibalt's Trickery your spell, and then Tibalt's Trickery their own Tibalt's Trickery into casting something from their deck. The thing about the Test of Talent is it's not even an auto win. If you're playing a control deck, it's not even an auto win against the Tibalt's Trickery deck. Because if you are like draw go strategy, if your deck is a draw go strategy, they usually have things like Crawling Baron, and their Crawling Baron, because they don't have anything to do, they're just going to pump the Crawling Baron until it grows to be like 10-10 or something like that, and then just beat you up. This is just from my experience. I did eventually beat a control deck that happened to exile all of my Tibalt's Trickeries, or I mean all of my Throes of Chaos from their Test of Talents while I was playtesting the deck. So yeah. And not on top of that, they're playing so many high cost bombs. Eventually you do run out of counter spells. Like if they do reach 10 mana and you're playing a control deck, they're just going to keep on casting Ulamog, you know? They're like on turn 8, they're gonna be Ugin. Turn 9, I don't know, like on your turn Magma Opus, and then turn 10 Ulamog. The thing is they run 35 lands that they're always going to have a land drop every single turn, you know? So just be wary of that if you're playing control deck. Tibalt's Trickery deck is actually, I think it might be a hard matchup. I don't know. Anywho, next up on the list is the deck that I came up with to deal with Throes of Chaos in best out of 1. It has been very successful, to say the least. So I've been playing Bant Blink deck with my spin on it. If you haven't seen the video, you should check it out. There's some really funny games out there against Tibalt's Trickery decks. Basically, if you cast Drannith Magistrate, they automatically lose. And the reason for me adding Drannith Magistrate into the Bant Blank deck is because I can use Drannith Magistrate into Elite Spellbinder. Elite Spellbinder is an enter the battle effect that attacks your opponent, and it puts that card into an exile pile. So Drannith Magistrate says that you can't cast that card unless it is from your hand. So eventually, if you keep blinking the Elite Spellbinder enough, they won't be able to play any of the cards in their hand, because they'll eventually be all in the exile pile. It's been real good so far, especially things against popular decks like Arcanist decks, for instance, or any decks that play like Faithless Looting, for example, or Croxa for that matter. The deck is also seemingly pretty good against elves too, because we are running 4 Skyclave Apparitions and 2 Deputy of Detention. So if you go like Llanowar Elf and then Skyclave Apparition into something like Soul Herder, it's an exile every single turn. You know, it is pretty brutal against only creature strategy decks. Although the deck seemed pretty weak against Jeskai Control, but that could definitely change with sideboard if I were to be playing best out of 3. And next up on the list is Shamans. So I have been seeing Shamans Fair bit. I was skeptical of Shamans at first, but after seeing it a few times, it seemed pretty powerful. For example, like, I did not even know Burning Tree Emissary was a shaman. And did you know Goblin Rune Blaster was a shaman? Because I didn't. So you can have Harmonic Prodigy, which makes enter the battle effects trigger twice for shamans, and you play Goblin Rune Blaster, destroying 2 lands opponent controls. If they have a greedy mana base, for instance, or Burning Tree's Emissary coming down, and you get 4 mana into Coco, for instance. Whether or not people keep playing this deck is still a mystery to me, because you do need to draw into Harmonic Prodigy. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you think this deck is all in on having Harmonic Prodigy, or can the deck perform despite not having Harmonic Prodigy? We'll have to see. Another deck that's been on the radar in the meta is the new Heliod Combo. The Heliod Combo deck has been pretty successful in the recent Hugolandia tournament that I watched. The deck tries to gain infinite life and infinite tokens using Heliod with the Scurry Oak, while you control either Soul Warden or Prosperous Innkeeper. So when you gain life, Heliod puts a counter on Scurry Oak, generating a token, and the token coming to the battlefield triggers the life gain, and it then loops infinitely. Well, to a point loops infinitely, because Arena Client can't really handle infinites very well, so you're only going to have about 40 tokens or so, and that's because of the rope in the game. In my honest opinion, after playtesting the deck, I don't find the deck very good. So I've faced it a couple times, and I've also played it a few times. I've never gotten the combo off, nor did my opponent ever get the combo off either. And that's because you're playing a very bad 3 mana 1/2 creature. Like Scurry Oak, don't get me wrong, like Scurry Oak's effect is very powerful, but to play a 3 mana 1/2, that does nothing when it comes down, unless you have the other two combo pieces. I mean, the mana cost is very high, and it's also very easy to disrupt the combo. Like, any piece of removal will get rid of the combo. Like, for example, you can literally just disrupt the combo on board while even the combo is happening. And that's because all you need to do is kill one of the creatures giving life, or the creature itself, right? So this next deck happens to be kind of like a flavor of the week, I think, or might continue to develop into a better deck in the future. But right now we have the Bolus's Citadel decks, focused on the deck ramps into a quick Citadel turn with cards like Gilded Goose, Llanowar Elf, Shambling Ghast, and Prosperous Innkeeper, and tries to kill you on the turn. Citadel comes down with cards that can clear the top of the deck, such as Woe Strider and Yagamoth, Grand Physician. So we have seen this strategy before in Historic Horizon, but I don't think anybody have actually tried playing Citadel with the D&D set. With the D&D set, they've gained the Shambling Ghast and Prosperous Innkeeper, allowing you to ramp that much quicker. And not only that, with those 2 cards, you can ramp into 6 mana real quick, and you can sneak in an early Citadel for a quick win. Not only does the Prosperous Innkeeper can manage to ramp you, it can also heal you from paying cards with life using Citadel. The cool thing about this type of deck is also it does let you sneak past the creativity deck that uses the Sarah's Emissary for protection against creatures, or any other card type for that matter, because you can play things like Bastion of Remembrance, which is a life loss instead of targeted ability. So I'm not sure if this is some flavor of the week thing, or people are playing this because it's beating Jeskai, because I don't think it does beat Jeskai. You are playing a 6 mana spell from sacrificing your board. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how the meta develops. I don't think this deck will stick, but we'll see. Other than that, last time I did mention decks like Merfolk and Vesperlark combos, but it seems like most of the tribal decks did disappear except for elves. Merfolk just seems a little bit lacking compared to elves right now. I think they are missing that one card in Modern that lets you turn opponent's land into an island. When it comes to elves, it does seem like they just dropped the Crater Hoof combo completely because of Rayleigh's and how powerful it is. So I did mention that if you're trying to play Crater Hoof, I don't think Rayleigh's would fit in the deck, and it makes sense why people drop the Crater Hoof completely. Because if you are trying to play Crater Hoof, it's just nothing really fit. Although there are some fringe situations where opponent has a bunch of blockers or chump blockers, and Crater Hoof does come in clutch because it does give everything trample. So there is some disadvantages and advantages to having Crater Hoof or not, but overall, Freyleys does seem like it is the popular choice right now, especially considering decks that are floating around in best set of 3, such as the Jeskai decks. Freyleys gives more longevity, and winning that first game will be that much more valuable because you only need to worry about one more game, right? And as for the Vesperlark combo, I still feel like Vesperlark combo might have some legs. I did some more testings with the Yagamoth, and it does seem very powerful still. Like, the fact that you don't really have to use Vesperlark as a combo piece is pretty good. For example, if you have Vesperlark with the Yagamoth and Shambling Gas in the graveyard, or Shambling Gas is also on the field, you can sacrifice the Shambling Gas, putting 2/1 on a creature, and then you can also sacrifice Vesperlark, returning the Shambling Gas back, and also sacrificing it to Yagamoth, which is like -5 just from that interaction. And also you're also drawing multiple cards at the same time. And if in Vesperlark, if there happens to be like any board wipes, it does bring creatures back when they board wipe you, which could be relevant in some situations. So I don't know, is it worth the splash of white color just for Vesperlark? We'll have to see. But anyways, obviously this is based on my experience with the meta, and your experience may vary. So don't take things too hard too much. If I happen to be like negative on whatever deck you're playing, just enjoy it. Anyways, hope you're still having fun with Historic Horizons, and I'll see you later.